everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 17 of Tower of God, Season 2. If I had to pick a single through line to describe what was being dealt with in this week's episode, I think that the thing that would most draw my attention is the various states of mind that we saw various characters experiencing. Because a lot of characters in this episode were dealing with situations that weren't necessarily physically damaging, but which had massive impacts on their emotional or mental state. We can start this conversation by looking at the idea of two people having a talk about the idea of Bomb's inner light, and the reality that there are people who would essentially follow him into hell because he is actually the kind of character who is kind and decent and good, despite all that he has been cornered into doing and all that has transpired. And it's interesting to see these characters warning each other of this reality, because for these characters who have cornered Bomb into doing the things he's been doing, they see him as a tool for their own personal agenda, but it's not necessarily an agenda Bomb shares or cares about. And although Bomb will do anything to protect his friends, at the end of the day, what's going on here and what's happening is not something that is actually within his own personal choice or will. And the consequences of that kind of trapped manipulation will, at least in my opinion, eventually bite these people on the ass, because it's incredibly important when you work with somebody, especially somebody very powerful, that you are considering whether or not you are working with somebody through compassion or compulsion. When you are working with somebody and forcing them to do things that are outside of their own normal state of will, eventually that will catch up with you. Because the importance of winning hearts and minds and getting people to do things of their own natural accord, instead of because they're being manipulated or hurt, is really important, because otherwise every single thing they do for you is something that they will internally be thinking of ways to undo in the future. So that's definitely food for thought. The next thing that we can talk about and think about is the fact that Rak and Kun have finally been reunited, and Rak seems like he is very adamant and determined to find and reconnect with Bomb, which I thought was super adorable. His optimism, his determination, his full speed forward kind of attitude is so much of what I loved about his character in season 1, and it was glorious to see that back in action, because as much as I love Kun as a character and as much as I enjoy him, Kun can often be guilty of overthinking things, and while that kind of planning and foresight can definitely be useful in specific situations, it's not always the best path forward. Sometimes you need to skip the drama of overthinking things and actually take action. I can definitely relate to that aspect of Kun's personality, as it's something I have myself when I'm making detailed decisions about things. And I can definitely say that I'm generally not somebody who would think the way that Rak would, where you're kind of just jumping ahead and then dealing with consequences later. That's not my personal style. But it's great to see that the two of them are interacting again. It's great seeing them bounce off of each other. The sequence with the chocolate was super cute. People talking about the fact that they've heard Kun talk about his friends and everything shows that although Kun can be very cunning and very cold, that Kun really does care about the people that he gets close to and that really matter to him. And I think that when things happen where he loses those people, that it really truly does hurt him. That pain ends up making him build up walls that can really mess with him and get him into a lot of trouble. Another really interesting reunion that we see in this episode is between Kasano, I think it's Ilmar, and Dr. Sophia. I thought that was very heartwarming and very moving. We get a brief flashback to her trying to get Ilmar to not cry quite so much, which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think that tears should be based off of gender, but I do think that there is some worth to actually understanding and building up some like emotional like muscle or stoicism, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, because there are times where it's absolutely going to be essential that you do cry. You certainly don't want to sit there intentionally holding everything in forever, because you will explode. It will cause eventual damage. It's not good for you. But at the same time, knowing how to be able to choose when you express those emotions so that you can control them rather than them controlling you is also a valuable skill. I also found it interesting in this particular situation that we saw that Dr. Sophia has been working with Emily, whom we've been hearing about for several episodes now, first as an AI, and then later from the orange-haired person who was talking to in Dorsey. Let's jump over to that next, because it's very clear that in Dorsey didn't necessarily know what to do as far as this person was concerned, and that she seems kind of mixed on the overall end result of what happened with being involved with this person. She seems very tripped up over the idea that Viola is bomb, or might be bomb, and I don't know whether she fully buys it or not, but it definitely is something that seems to have given her pause. She is also aware, because of this person, that this Emily character is potentially involved in this workshop thing, and I wonder whether that's going to have any impact on her, or if she's frankly not going to give a damn. We'll have to see as the story moves forward, but it seems like this Emily character is going to somehow tie into a lot of interesting and important things, and the question of whether this is actually an individual with their own personal autonomy, or whether this is more of an AI that's going to be under some kind of control by some outward mechanism, is going to be something very interesting to consider. And we can take that agency and self-control issue, and we can jump right into the ending of the episode, where Ja Won-yeon actually steps out into the area where the match for the ship is going to begin, ideally next episode. And he is excited because he thinks he is going to be reunited with Prince and Mensing. And he is, but there is something horrifically wrong, because while Prince, although he's bruised and beaten up a little bit, seems to still generally be himself, it looks like something really bad has happened to Mensing, and she has lost sense of her faculties, and that is going to be very scary going forward, because I mean, on one hand, she physically is a little girl, but if on the other hand her powers have been enhanced and she doesn't have control of her own mind, the consequences could definitely be very dire, and that's going to put Won-yeon and Prince and anyone else that is close to their group who is in this initial bout into a grave deal of danger, and is definitely going to bring up some potential moral and emotional conflicts that should definitely be interesting. But those are my thoughts on the latest episode. I'm definitely impressed. It seems like we are finally going to be jumping into the actual tournament in earnest, and that should definitely be interesting. We have such a large cast that we're following and so much that is going on, so I can understand if there are some people who might be a bit confused about how we're jumping from character to character and stuff, but we are dealing essentially with 2 different seasons worth of characters now coming into direct connection and interaction, which is fascinating but slightly confusing depending on how much we remember and understand about each of these people. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking, so feel free to drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll talk to you in the next video. See you later. Bye!